and welcome to worship. I apologise for being late. Unfortunately, my device wouldn't accept the meeting password. I think these technical difficulties happen to us all once in a while, so apologies for that. Before we go any further, can everybody see me and hear me clearly? Okay. At the moment, I can only see Tony on my screen, so I'm assuming there's more than Tony that's joining us. So if there are any issues, could Robert or one of the other members just, I don't know, perhaps send me a note in the chat or anything else? Okay. So without further ado, if we're all assembled, we shall begin. The service for today, the theme is on acceptance. We shall begin by lighting our chalice candle, and the words are on the order of service. I will speak these as well. We are in luck, the chalice has lit. We light this candle as a symbol of our faith. By its light may our vision be illumined. By its warmth may our fellowship be encouraged. And by its flame may our yearnings for peace, justice, and the life of the Spirit be enkindled. And now we have a time for any candles of joy or concern, if any members present wish to share those.
I light my candle for all our friends who are ill at the moment and receiving hospital treatment. There is at least 6 of them, so I won't name them all, but I remember them in my prayers.
My cousin in Austria has eventually died. It wasn't necessarily unexpected, as he was in a coma, but I pray for his family, his wife, his children, and his grandchild.
I would like us to remember the family of the late Bill Taylor, a very dear friend of ours, whose funeral takes place this Wednesday, for his sons and his grandchildren and his wife.
If there are no more candles of joy or concern from the congregation, I would like to light a candle for the victims of the stabbing in Birmingham this morning. Obviously that story is still unfolding, but our thoughts and prayers need to be with those involved. It's a very upsetting incident. And we shall hope that all our prayers, both spoken and unspoken, be heard. And now we shall sing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Thank you. Our call to worship this morning is from Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 to 9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. And now we shall have our first hymn of the morning. All the hymns this morning are from the Green Book. And our first hymn is number 191, 191, To Worship Rightly.
Now let us sing in loving celebration the holier worship which our God may bless. Restores the lost, binds up the spirit broken, and feeds the widowed and the parentless. Fold to thy heart thy sister and thy brother. Where pity dwells, the peace of God is there. To worship rightly is to love each other, each smile a hymn, each kindly deed a prayer. Follow with the reverent steps of the great example of those who holy work was doing good. So shall the wide earth seem our daily temple, each loving like a psalm of gratitude. Then shall all shackles fall, the stormy clangor of wild war music o'er the earth shall cease. Love shall tread out the baleful fire of anger, and in its ashes plant a tree of peace.
Thank you, Robert, and indeed Barry. I think that's fast becoming another of my favourite hymns. And now we have come to the Lord's Prayer, which I requested from Robert that this week it would be sung. I don't know if he's managed that, or if you could let us know. Otherwise, I will happily say it.
I apologise in advance. I have sang it, and so everyone will now endure that. The words will come up as well as the music, gratefully played by Barry.
Thank you, Robert.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. I include the sung version, or there's more than one version, but I include a sung version of the Lord's Prayer this morning. As a memory for me, really. As some of you know, I also work for Rochdale Unitarian Church, and it is the tradition there to have the Lord's Prayer sung each week. I know Gillian was very fond of it, and I've grown to be quite fond of it too. So thank you all for indulging me. And if you didn't like it, we can have it spoken next week. So our story for all ages this week, it's special because those that have had the service posted out to them or simply have a text version, they won't have it in front of them. And the reason for this is I thought it only works in the telling, really. It doesn't really work when written down. And for most of my stories that I give to congregations, apart from the well-known ones, this is a true story. It couldn't really be otherwise. These things tend to happen to me. And it fits, I hope, into the theme of acceptance. And this happened about 5 years ago. And I was living in Burnley at the time with my then partner. And we were looking for a new 3-seater sofa. May not sound exciting, but stay with me. And we eventually found one on eBay, and it was right round the corner from where we lived. It sounded perfect. It was a little old lady that was going to downsize, and she said, "Oh, you know, she couldn't sell it. I don't think that was how she couldn't sell it because of the fire regulations. It wasn't up to scratch, but you know, we didn't care for a tenner. It didn't do us." So we went round there with the Land Rover and the trailer, and we got into this little old lady's house, and there was the couch, and she said, "Okay, can you lift it out of here?" Because obviously she can't lift it. So we both grappled with this thing. It's absolutely huge. It was German made, solid as anything, incredibly heavy. I cannot emphasize how heavy this thing was. My arms are noodles. I do press-ups every day, and it was absolutely unbelievably heavy. So we did manage to get it out of the house eventually and onto the trailer. And just as we were leaving, she said to us, "Thank you very much for taking this. Can you now put my other 3-seater sofa back in its place?" And I turned around, and there was this other 3-seater sofa on the other side of the room that she wanted shifting. So we couldn't really say no because, you know, she'd been really good to us. So we tried to get this other 3-seater sofa exactly where she wanted it, and that was even heavier than the first. And this little old lady's front room was quite small, and it had lots of intricate ornaments and statues on pedestals doing things like this. And I'm just going to drop it because I just do not have the strength in my arms. If I'd have been a praying man at that time, I would have prayed, because it was only a miracle that we got it back in position. But the downside was that by the time we got to the car, which was across the road, I had lost all strength in my arms. I mean, literally all. I couldn't open the door. I couldn't get in. I couldn't put my seatbelt on. I had just no strength. It was quite embarrassing. But anyway, it was only around the corner back home, so we got there. And the only way to get it in, because of the size of the sofa, was through the front door. Now, it was a terrace, much like the property I live in now, and it has steps that go up from the street level into the house. And it's quite a flight of steps. You've got to get this sofa up the steps, through the front door, through the vestibule door, and then onto the first floor where our living room was. So we got this settee out after much toing and froing, and we got it up the steps towards the door. And I said, you did, to my partner, I said, you did measure the dimensions of the settee versus the door. He said, of course I did. Of course I did. We got up there, we pushed it, and it got stuck. It got wedged in the gap between the front door and the entrance to the vestibule. I lost all strength in my arms at that point and dropped the other end. My partner had to put the other end down, but it didn't matter anyway because it was wedged. There's nothing we could do. So after some rather unchristian language, we had to leave it there for a good part of the morning while my arms recovered, and then we had to wedge to force it back out because it wouldn't fit. We couldn't get it through. It ended up in our garage around the back of the house, and eventually we sold it to some crazy person in Cole. But that's a different story. But the point is, apart from make sure you measure up before you go out to fetch any furniture, that sometimes you just have to accept these things. I mean, I was furious at the time, but I can see the funny side of it now, you know. So yes, acceptance. I hope you enjoyed that. And now our second hymn this morning is 150, 150, the Pilgrim's Hymn. Take it away, Robert.
Who would true valor see, let him come hither. One here will constant be, come wind, come weather. There's no discouragement shall make him once relent his first avowed intent to be a pilgrim. Whoso beset him round with dismal stories do but themselves confound, his strength the more is. No lion can him fright, he'll win with a giant fight, but he will always have the right to be a pilgrim. Hobgoblin or found fiend can daunt his spirit. He knows he at the end shall life inherit. Then fancy fly away, he'll fear not what men say, he'll labor night and day to be a pilgrim.
Thank you. And our reading this morning, it's actually Psalm 139, but it comes from the Nazareth Unitarian Chapel chant book. I don't know if any of you can see that here, the lighting conditions in my house. Some of the congregation members may recognize these. I believe they were found during one of the many clear outs, and I was very, very grateful to have one. It's not got any inscriptions or any name in it, but I just think it's a wonderful piece of the chapel's history. And I was very much looking forward to be able to use it in one of my services. I'm just going to give you a warning now. I'm not going to chant from this. I thought I'm just going to mess it up. So I'm going to read a transcribed version, but it is from the chant book. And it is, again, Psalm 139. O Lord, thou hast searched me out and known me. Thou knowest mine down-sitting and mine uprising. Thou understandest my thoughts long before. Thou art about my path and about my bed, and spiest out all my ways. For lo, there is not a word in my tongue, but thou, Lord, knowest it altogether. Thou hast fashioned me behind and before, and lain thine hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful and excellent for me. I cannot attain unto it. Whither shall I go then from thy spirit? Or whither shall I go then from thy presence? If I climb up into heaven, thou art there. If I go down into hell, thou art there also. If I take the wings of the morning and remain in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. If I say, peradventure, the darkness shall cover me, then shall my night be turned to day. Yea, the darkness is no darkness with thee, but the night is as clear as the day. The darkness and light to thee are both alike. I will give thanks unto thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvellous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. How dear are thy counsels unto me, O God! O how great is the sum of them! If I tell them, they are more in number than the sand. When I wake up, I am present with thee. Try me, O God, and seek the ground of my heart. Prove me and examine my thoughts. Look well if there be any way of wickedness in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And we shall now have a time for silent prayer, followed by a musical meditation. Thank you, Barry. And our address this morning, as well as the theme of the service as a whole, is on acceptance. Now, how open are you to acceptance? Accepting what is the case at this very moment. Consider, for example, the period of silence for prayer and meditation that we have just been a part of. How easy is it to just sit in silent contemplation? For those of us with children, pets, or other family members who share our homes, sitting in silence, or even finding a few moments of relative quiet, can be quite the challenge. But if you live by yourself, you may still, in such moments, have to contend with noisy neighbours, traffic outside, the slight ticking of a distant clock, even the smug humming of a fridge. Even if we were all sitting in chapel, peace and stillness are not guaranteed. I recall that on most Sundays at 11 a.m. sharp, just as the congregation, all setting into their weekly period of silent prayer and meditation, the local motorcycle gang could always be relied upon to go roaring past, throttles opened up, ready for an afternoon's terror in the dales. Now, of course, you may have the gift of patience and be able to ignore such temporary irritations. Or you may, with good humour, see such sounds not as an interruption, but as yet another chance just to accept what is at that given moment. But what if what you are trying to accept is something more serious or permanent? In these difficult days, there are many such examples. Loss of income, employment, accommodation, relationships, and, often hardest of all, loss of life. It is likely that many of you, or certainly someone whom you are close to, has been affected recently by difficult circumstances that are hard to come to terms with or to fully accept the implications of. I'm still surprised by how hard I am finding it to accept the recent loss of a close friend, that they are really gone. I keep catching myself putting time aside in my diary and being surprised in the evening when the expected phone call doesn't come. Loss and change are natural parts of the cycle of life. That doesn't mean we have to celebrate or be happy about all of them, but we must accept and come to terms with them as best we can if we are all to live well. How might we do this? Well, much of this service has been given over to prayer, readings from scripture, and meditation. So putting our difficulties and sorrows into prayer is certainly an option. But as Unitarians, we don't all necessarily believe that our prayers are directed at God or even a God, or perhaps even a being with whom we can form a personal relationship. But personal beliefs aside, I don't think that this is the obstacle it appears to be. You don't have to pray in the sense of knowing that there is someone listening on the other side, let alone someone with the power or inclination to solve all your problems. The important point is that whatever it is that you do helps you accept whatever it is you are feeling and struggling with at the given moment. Meditation or focus on a particular thought or feeling, however negative or troublesome, can help us accept its presence without trying to deny or suppress it, which in most cases is futile anyhow. If you're going through a really tough time, it may be that you don't know what it is you are struggling to accept or how you really feel about it. You just know you feel awful and need to get help to get through the moment. This is perhaps why traditional concepts of prayer can be off-putting, because many of us were brought up to see praying as something formulaic and official that we perform by rote, in formal dress, in a special building, or at an appointed time. Now, I don't know about you, but some of the things I've had to pray about and the language I've used to pray about them or get really honest about them is certainly not suitable for inclusion in worship service. But like the family doctor, bartender, or minister, you can bet that whatever it is you are going through, it has all been heard before. And unlike the aforementioned, prayer is available to you at any hour of the day or night. A reminder of the words that we heard earlier from Psalm 139. And this is from the New Living Translation, which has more modern language. You know what I'm going to say, even before I say it, Lord. You go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me, and your strength will support me. I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night. But even in darkness, I cannot hide from you. To you, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up, you are still with me. It is easier to accept hardship and loss when we have someone to share them with. There is the story of the little girl who is told that God is always there for her, and she responds, "But I need someone with skin on." This graphic image hits home, though, even when we do accept painful circumstances that we cannot escape or undo. There is sometimes no substitute for comfort in the arms of another, something which, at the present time at least, is impossible for many of us to receive. Therefore, we must look forward with hope and patience to a time when we are able to come together in comfort and worship, to share one another's joys and sorrows in the flesh. Until then, we must value the contact that we are able to have with each other, whether by word, voice, or screen, accepting that, for the time being, this is how things are. However, as we do so, we must keep in mind the wisdom of the Sufi mystics, that this too shall pass. Amen. And now we have our third and final hymn of the morning, 174, 174, A Church is a Living Fellowship.
A church is a living fellowship, more than a holy shrine, where people can share their hopes and fears, less of the yours and mine. We're bonded by trust, we search for truth beyond the chains of creeds, and thought can inspire to shine with fire from all our deepest needs. Let's stretch out the open hand of love, conquer the fists of hate, divided no more by voices of war, creeds of our mindless state. We'll take all our building bricks of truth, make them of homes of life, a future to face the shame and disgrace in all of our past of strife. Our church is a place of human trust, more than of brick and stone. Of love we sing to make it ring in every joyous tone.
Thank you, Robert and Barry. And now we come to our final blessing, which is, I believe, commonly referred to as the Serenity Prayer, created by Dr. Reinhold Niebuhr, apparently. God, give me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right. If I surrender to your will, may I be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. And now we will extinguish the chalice, and it has stayed lit throughout the service, which is a good sign. As we extinguish the light of this candle, our flame burns on, our vision remains bright, our fellowship warm, and our yearnings for peace, justice, and the life of the Spirit constant. So be it until we meet again. And now we shall have Go Now in Peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Thank you, Barry and Robert, this morning for your assistance with the service. Now, I can't see anybody at the moment apart from Robert, so I don't know how many people are present with us, but this might be an opportunity to get teas, coffees and biscuits, and we shall resume for chat, gossip, all the rest of it in a few minutes.